Hey guys, how you doing? Shane here with Whelan Cameras, and today I'm shooting on the Sony ZV-1. Let's go. The Sony ZV-1 is, to my knowledge, one of the first custom-built vlogging cameras that actually works like it's supposed to. At the moment I'm walking around Limerick, and as we know, vloggers all hate tripods. They really hate bringing them around everywhere and carrying them. They are actually a big pain. It's really fun actually as a vlogger to just kind of walk around, talk, and show some bits and pieces as you're doing it. Like over here actually, I'm actually seeing this really interesting pattern on the bridge. Now what's really nice about the Sony camera is, one, it's got this active stabilization that's going on, so I am super smooth as I'm walking around, and I'm literally just holding this with my hand. I don't even have the little tripod adjustment that you can get, so this is all totally handheld just as I'm walking around. And it has this really interesting three-directional microphone. So as I turn to show you this bridge, you see this really funky pattern that's going on here. The sound should have adjusted so that you can hear me speaking rather clearly, even though I'm facing the back of the camera. Now, that might not seem like a huge amount to some people, but just having the freedom to move the camera around, walk around with it, and not have to carry all those bits and pieces, and not have to carry a massive external microphone on top of all that, that makes this camera extremely small and extremely efficient. It's actually as close to a phone as you can probably get at the moment, while having all of the abilities of an actual camera. The really nice thing about this camera is, well, for one, it's got that flippy screen, which I think is so important for vlogging cameras. I think a lot of camera companies, they don't really know what vloggers kind of do, what they kind of get up to, whereas it really feels like Sony has actually maybe spoken to some vloggers, or maybe did some focus groups or something, because there are actually a couple of key features that I think are extremely useful for vloggers. One is that flippy screen, which is great, and when you open it, it turns on automatically, just like that. So if I close it, it will turn off. And when you record, this little light here actually turns red, and you can see as you're looking there whether you're recording or not. And sometimes when you're vlogging, you can kind of forget. It's really easy to forget to push the button, or you think you pushed the button but you actually didn't, or whatever. There's loads of things that can happen. You ran out of memory space, whatever, and you kind of forget if you're recording or not, and you kind of keep looking at the screen. Am I still rolling? Oh no, I am. Oh wait, no, is it still rolling? Did the camera turn off? Oh no, it's still fine. And that can be really distracting if you're constantly looking at your screen like that. Whereas here, I just have to check this light, and it's so close to the lens that you wouldn't even really notice if I was looking at the lens or not. The other thing here is that it comes with this windshield, and I do recommend putting that on if you're going outdoors. The only real thing to be aware of when you're using that camera that I've noticed is the steady shot. So it has two different types of stabilization. One is standard and one is active. The only difference between the two is that active is better, but it has a crop. Alright guys, here we have a lovely view of Limerick, and this is with the full active stabilization on. And I'll just show you here, give it a bit of a wibble. That's pretty smooth, I mean, that is a nice amount of stabilization. It's not warpy. It does actually seem to be doing a really good job. Oh, there's a lovely bird. Anyway, so here's the active stabilization, and I'm just going to switch now and I'll show you without the full amount. I'm going to go back to just the standard. Okay, and here is the standard steady shot. So you see we do get a bit more width here either side. So I mean, perfect for if you just want to get a little bit of stabilization. Like here, I'm going to give it that same jibble. So I mean, it's still pretty reasonable. It's not quite as smooth. It has that little bit of jerkiness, but I mean, by no means bad, So definitely standard steady shot is something that you could use, I would say, most of the time. And if you're really walking, like really ruggedy walking, I would put on the active one. There are two more features in this thing that I think really elevate it from being a really good camera to being a really great camera. And these might seem like really simple features, but these are two things that I think every vlogger has needed from time to time. And the first one is that background defocus. So this is a 1.8 aperture lens. Now it has a whole bunch of intuitive automatic features that I'm just letting it kind of do its own thing just to test out the auto features, and it's doing pretty well, I think. But if I push this button up here at the top of the camera, watch what happens to the background. So my background is super blurry, and I'm utilizing that 1.8 aperture. And the reason why my scene doesn't get brighter or darker is because this camera has a built-in ND. So as it's opening the aperture, it's also darkening the ND filter, so it's keeping the scene really even. And I'll just do that one more time to show you guys. Watch the background over here. Watch how blurry this gets, right? So boom, nice and blurry. We're focusing on my face, and then boom, now the background is nice and sharp again. But another tool that this thing has is the product showcase set. So what this does is basically now it's focusing on my face, and actually the autofocus this whole time I haven't even looked at it. It's pretty much bang on 100% all the time. But when you turn on the product showcase tool, you can hold something up to the camera. It will work out that you want to show this thing, and now the product is in focus and I'm not. Then I can take it away, and now it's back to me. And you can actually use both of these tools together. So I can have the background defocus. There we go. Now I'm really in focus, and then I can hold up my product. And now look at the difference between the product at the front. Sorry, Apple, sponsored by Apple, I wish. And then back to me again, and then I can turn off my defocus. And that is actually super intuitive. It's really easy to use. The defocus is just a button at the top, and the product showcase is a button in the menu, but it's really easy to access. They do recommend using a tripod for the product. I'm not quite sure why it needs a tripod, but if you are going to be showing things, you probably want both your hands anyway. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's really useful, and yeah, really cool. And I'm really impressed again with Sony that they've managed to put all these features into the one camera, and I think that's just really great for vloggers to have access to. So I really have to hand it to Sony. They've actually made an amazing camera that's really easy to use, it's intuitive, it holds well, it's ergonomical, and it kind of does what it says in the tin. It really is built for vloggers, and it's got some great features in there that I think vloggers will really like and use. It's kind of designed for somebody who either has been using their phone and wants to upgrade to a camera, or has been using like a larger camera and maybe wants to downsize but doesn't want to go down to the phone. It's got that 20.1 megapixel sensor. It's a 1-inch sensor, so it's way bigger than anything you'll get in the phone, so the quality is a lot better. But it holds like a camera and it works like a camera, so it's got all of those great features as well. That being said, if you don't want to just be limited by what the camera itself can do, you can add an external microphone on top of here. Either if you have your own shotgun mic or lapel mic, or you want to get one to improve the audio for whatever you're doing, you can put it in here. It doesn't let you not do that. If you want to push the camera to its absolute height, you can get an external recorder like an Atomos Ninja or something, and you can HDMI out from this thing. And even though I think the color profiles in this thing are really straight out of the park, they're really great, it actually gives you the option of S-Log, both S-Log 2 and S-Log 3, which I think is really amazing for a camera to do. So if you're somebody who likes to grade, you can do that as well. Okay, so I'm just going to take like a really dynamic scene here. There's this tree which is pretty much swamped in darkness, and then a really bright sky over here. Now I'm showing you guys this is S-Log 3. The only thing that I find a little bit confusing about accessing the S-Log is that you actually have to go into the photo menu, go down into picture profiles, and then it's under profile 7 and 8. So it's not quite intuitive. You kind of have to know what you're doing, and I'm not super familiar with the Sony system. But as far as I'm aware, this is S-Log 3. And you can see already it's obviously super flat. I'm just letting the camera totally automatically expose this as well, like, so maybe I'm not doing this correctly, but again, I just wanted to see what the camera will do under these circumstances. So we'll just let this roll, and then we'll just see how they look and just try and get them to match up. So guys, this has been a really fun review. I actually am really impressed with this camera, and it's definitely something that if you're vlogging a lot, you should really think about. If you're upgrading from a phone, or if you're trying to downsize from a camera, this is definitely something that you should be looking at. And before I leave you guys, there's one last feature that I want to show you, and I just think that it's a really fun thing to do, and this is the super slow-mo. It can do a whole bunch of settings. It can do 30, 60, 120, kind of the standard slow-mos, but you can actually push that all the way up to 960. So let's see what that looks like. Let's go for it. 960 frames a second. Alright guys, so that is the Sony ZV-1. Pop on into Whelan's, have a chat with us inside, ask us questions, get your hands on one of these guys, the Sony ZV-1. See you then.